Good morning. Thank you very much for your attendance and to the third summer school. Amelie, the organizer from ADIA Lab, will arrive today because there were a problem yesterday in the airport in Germany, and they canceled all the flights in the airport, and she will arrive today. Sorry, because we have she will give you some words tomorrow in the name of the representing ADIA Lab. My colleague Enrique Herrera is vice president of the University of Granada, responsible of research and knowledge transfer, also full professor in artificial intelligence, and he will open the summer school.
Thank you, Paco. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to this third edition of the summer school. This year is focused on the responsible artificial intelligence and rationing, responsible artificial intelligence, and generative and agentic artificial intelligence era. This is very important topic today from the theoretical point of view, but important from the practical point of view. I want to say thank you to all speakers, the speakers today and the speakers that participate in the conference during 2 weeks. It's a privilege for the University of Granada to organize here this meeting together with ADIA Lab. That you know, we had a special agreement to work and to collaborate with ADIA Lab. Paco and me every year attending the special meeting the ADIA Lab organizes in Abu Dhabi. A consequence of this agreement, we organize here every year this summer school. This year is very special because additional, the next weekend we organize here in Granada the IEEE conference on artificial intelligence in the world. Is the most important conference on artificial intelligence supporting by 4 societies of the IEEE. Senior Processing, Computing Society, System and Cybernetic Society, Computational Intelligence Society. I know that you had the opportunity to attend many of the sessions that we organize in this conference. The conference was celebrated in other university campus of Granada. It's close free. It's possible to go very easily using the underground, 15 minutes more or less. The conference started on Friday with the different tutorials, and then we had the more important aspect that we analyze related to the generative artificial intelligence application from the theoretical point of view, from the academic point of view. But additional, we had the opportunity to have a presentation from the many different experts from the company, the system, NVIDIA, IBM, Microsoft, Amazon, different experts present different applications of the use of the artificial intelligence in this conference. I think that is a good opportunity for you. Okay, to know new idea and to know a very important aspect. But regarding to this conference, you know that during these 2 weeks, I know that you had many jobs here in this technological park in this building. But additional, you had different activities to enjoy in Granada. I hope that you had a good time, a good weather. I don't know that exactly is possible because perhaps during this week is rainy. But I think that you had a lot of opportunity to enjoy in Granada with a lot of different activities that we had, and the city is beautiful, and you had the opportunity to visit the downtown, the city, the Alhambra Palace, and more activity. I want to say you that, again, thank you to the organization, Amelie and Paco. I know that they spent a lot of time to organize this, and I hope that similar to the previous year, this meeting will be successful, enjoying. One important aspect for this conference is that we had the opportunity then, in the future, to establish the collaboration between our professor in Granada University from computer science with the student to collaborate. This is the good result. I hope to obtain this kind of result with this meeting again. No more. Thank you for coming, enjoying with this summer school, enjoy with Granada, enjoy with the international conference, IEEE Conference on Artificial Intelligence. I invite you to attend it. Thank you, Paco.
Thank you very much, Enrique. Well, it's a pleasure to start, and the first talk is my talk. Then I will start my presentation. ¿Te quedas o te vas? La obligación, hablamos. Porfa, bájate una botella de agua, porfa. Well, now is the microphone running? Yes, I put away this one. Well, all you have the program, you know the program. And this first talk is my talk. Really, I have two talks today and also tomorrow together with Patrick. I have the half of a session. And then I prepare a global seminar about different aspects of responsible AI and particularly on tracks in AI. I call it the journey to trust in AI. Really, tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow, the visit to Alhambra. We will visit our palace. And then the question is how to get how to develop AI system, responsible AI system that in order to trust in AI system. What is the journey to trust in AI system? These are dark picture, and I hope that along my talk we can receive some lights about the journey to understand how to trust in artificial intelligence. In order to do that, my presentation between today and tomorrow have three clear parts. The first one, an introduction to responsible AI and trustworthy artificial intelligence. The second one is the question why, what do we need to trust in artificial intelligence and to analyze the problem of to trust in artificial intelligence. It's so complex and basically it's fundamental to have a good governance rules, a good governance process to manage AI and to use trustworthy technology, to use some of the trustworthy AI requirements that we will discuss in the first module, and particularly I will pay attention to explainability. Last one is the reasoning stack. I will analyze the way from transformer to LLMs to agentic AI and the requirements or the problems that the risks and the way to mitigate the mitigation of them, and particularly how to track in artificial intelligence in this kind of problems. As I explained you, first we will talk about responsible and trustworthy AI. Second, we talk about tracks in AI. And third, we talk about the reasoning stack, and we discuss why it's hard, trust in AI is hard for this kind of problem. Well, we start with the first module, the first part. And I will start about why are we discussing about trust in AI and trustworthy AI. Because really we have a black box, usually we have a black box, we have neural networks, deep learning. It's unusual now to use rule-based system, and then we need to consider the different aspects in order to open this black box. And we will analyze the foundation of tracks. We study what is responsible AI, what is trustworthy AI, and some special aspects associated to it. Well, in the first aspect, we will study the ethical principles of AI and trustworthy AI and the risk and mitigation in generative and agentic AI. Well, the first point is to understand the problem, the current problem. Really, the discussion did start 10 years ago approximately. In fact, we can find the papers before to 10 years ago, but the discussion is if can we design responsible AI system. The first step is to discard the ethics principles of AI, and in documents from the European Commission, a high-level expert group in artificial intelligence, they define an ethic guidelines for trustworthy AI, and they introduce 4 fundamental ethics principles. They are here in the slide. 3 of them are taken from the bioethics area. The respect for human autonomy, prevent of harm, and fairness. These are 3 classical principles usually in all areas, but particularly from biomedicine. And they introduce a 4th principles that is fundamental in the study of the artificial intelligence and the developments along last 10 years. The principle was explicability, that I will pay attention later about that. And when we discuss about responsible AI, of course, we need to consider 2 aspects: the ethics, and the second one, the lawfulness. It's fundamental to understand what are the law, the rules, the guidelines that we have in order to apply artificial intelligence. Particularly in Europe, we have the AI Act. They are the guidelines, and that will start to the application in the next year, and we need to design AI system according to the European AI Act. Second is trustworthy AI. Trustworthy AI is different than responsible AI. It's usual that when we read the paper, people discuss about responsible AI or trustworthy AI in the same way. But really, when we discuss about responsible AI, we are discussing about the ethics, the law, and when we discuss about trustworthy, we include as third pillars is the robustness and the technical requirements. We have in the European framework 7 requirements that were introduced for designing and to analyze AI system. They are well known: human agency and oversight, technical robustness and safety. Safety is I will pay attention later, because safety in Europe, they use the expert safety with a double sense: security and the safety with respect to people. And in the American guidelines, as I will show you, they use this distinction: the privacy and data governance, transparency, including explainability, diversity and non-discrimination, social and environmental well-being, and accountability. These are 7 technical requirements that not all of them are necessary, but part of them are fundamental in order to design a trustworthy AI. And we must distinguish between the technical ones. Inside of the technical one, we have the safety techniques, explainability, federated learnings from privacy, and so on. But we have other non-technical ones. They are associated to the governance, accountability, and the governance fundamental in order to control the behavior of a system. This paper is 3 years old, was written with some colleagues in 23. You can find a complete discussion about the different aspects of trustworthy AI, aspect analysis from an ethical point of view. Well, as I told you, the previous 7 requirements were the requirements from the high-level group from the European Commission. These requirements were proposed in 7 years ago. Later, 3 years ago, the National Institute of Standards and Technology from America propose also the requirements or discuss the new requirements for the trustworthy AI, or the requirements that they are using in America. And you can check that in this case of requirements, really, in order to introduce the requirement, they discuss that this is an artificial intelligence risk management framework. They consider that in order to avoid the potential problems and the risk of AI, they introduce aspect of safe and secure. You can check that safe and secure. In this case, they separate clearly the behavior of the system with respect to people, to respect the people, and the security, the adversarial attacks or any external attacks to the system, explainability, interpretability directly, privacy, the fairness like the previous one, reliability and accountability. There are a few differences between the American requirements and the European requirements. The differences are, of course, the American proposal for trustworthy AI was developed 4 years later, and they clearly separate safety and security. It's a good idea in order to understand that there are two different kind of problems, but usually in Europe we discuss about safety from the double sense. And in Europe, the high-level expert group pay attention to the human agency and oversight. The human oversight of the AI system for high-risk problem is fundamental. And second aspect, the European one, is the societal and environmental well-being. These are two different requirements, and really, if we put together the American ones and European ones, we have a complete list of trustworthy AI requirements. And one of them is, as ethical principle, was explicability at the beginning, 7 years ago in the document, the American document, and they introduced in these guidelines explicability as a crucial requirement and a crucial ethics principle for building and maintaining users' tracks in a system. Directly, when they introduced this ethical principle, they introduced the necessity or that it is necessary to track in AI system. And explainability has an ethical view in one side, and on the other side, really there are a lot of technical developments and approach methods and so on in order to try to introduce explainability in a system. It's a fundamental element in this area. What is explainability? Really, at the beginning, they use the high-level group, they use explicability, but later all us use the name of explainability. And we discuss always is explainable AI as the usual name, explainable artificial intelligence as the usual name that we use discussing this area. There are a lot of definitions along the last 10 years approximately that people are working, or we are working in this area. And we propose in one paper, this paper did introduce a definition that now I think is a standard that an important part of the community accepted, because this introduced two fundamental elements: the audience and the understandability. It's very important audience because it's quite different to discuss about explainability when we are the user than when we are the developer of the AI system. And even when you are the user, let's suppose in medicine, it's quite different, the doctor and the patients. The explainability for the doctor is to understand the advice of the AI system in order to take a decision in collaboration with the AI system. And the point of view and the understanding of the patient is to receive a clear information if we are using an AI system. And of course, it's also different the position of the regulators or other stakeholders. Then we introduce this definition. Given an audience, unexplainable AI is one that produces details or reason to make its functioning clear or easy to understand. And this is very important to understand the system. We can use and we can read some definition with comprehensibility, for example, but really when we discuss about comprehensibility, we're discussing about the technology inside of the reasoning, that if we use decision tree, we use a rule-based system, we can use the concept of comprehensibility. But in the case of AI system, in the majority of the application, we must understand the reason to receive some advice, but it is so difficult to understand what happened inside of a foundation model, for example. Another important aspect is we must pay attention to the opacity, because even when we discuss about explainability, good morning, welcome. Good morning, hi. Another important aspect is the opacity. Recently, some scholars are discussing about this topic, opacity. Opacity is the opposite of transparency, and it's fundamental to understand that not always we can open the black box of AI, and we have a partial or irreducible opacity. And in a recent paper with a colleague, Regis Calderon, we discussed that we can find two kinds of opacity inside of an intelligence system. We have what we call accidental opacity, when we can use technology explainability in order to reduce this accidental opacity, but always there is another part, an irreducible opacity. It's not possible to reduce this kind of opacity, and then we need the governance in order to control the AI system behavior. Well, when we discuss about trust in AI is the central point of my talk. There are a lot of studies now about trust in AI. This is a very interesting, Afrog et al. Is a very interesting overview published in Humanities and Social Science Communication and Nature journal. And this is a state of the art of the trust in AI, published 2 years ago. And there is they pay attention to that introduction by Ryan. It's a very interesting article discussing about the trust in AI, and Ryan introduced the following frameworks, and it considered that trust in AI is a non-technical ethical consideration that includes 3 fundamental aspects. One of them is the performance. We need to know that the AI system has high performance in order to trust in the system. Third, compliance with the legal and technical regulation. Of course, according to the legal regulation, we need to design the system. And the second one, transparency and explainability. Explainability is again in the central point of the trust in AI. Well, after this small introduction to the ethical principles and trustworthy AI, let me to discuss quickly why we need this kind of technology, trustworthy AI and to trust in AI. And let me to introduce the generative AI risks and the mitigation in the idea of generative AI. You know, when we are discussing about, when we are using generative AI and agentic AI, we are in quite a different scenario than in the classical artificial intelligence, the classical areas, with basically the prediction of any kind of recommendation. Because in the classical artificial intelligence, the prediction is we have an input and we receive an output, and information about the variables about the input. But really, what we are discussing about agentic AI and generative AI, risks is not a single output. Really, we have a trajectory of decision over time. When we interact with generative AI, with large language model, really we have a continuous interaction also with agentic AI. Then to understand the behavior of the AI system is quite different, and of course appear different kind of problems. In the traditional AI, we have the error that is a wrong prediction, is the classical error of the AI system. And when we discuss about generative AI, the error is a plausible information, but false output. It's very usual to receive an information from a large language model that theoretically is plausible, maybe correct according to our prompt, but really it has a false output, because always a large language model provides you an answer, even if the LLM has not the correct output and answer for you. And second is the error in the agentic AI. In the agentic AI, we have actions. We construct agentic AI with the aim to have autonomy and to have actions. And then the problem, the error is an error in the action in the work, in the application, direct application, and the final decision of the AI system. Therefore, we are in a quite different scenario when we must pay attention to different new risks. The first one, hallucination, well known, really when the fluency replaces the trust. Is very well known studied, and hallucination is the problem when with our prompt we have a question to the LLM, the large language model, and it cannot produce a correct answer, but produce an answer. Always we receive an answer and according to our prompt, and some of them it is incorrect. And hallucination is the name really to say that the large language model has an error, clear error in the answer. Of course, we combine a large language model with an agent. We have a problem if we receive hallucinations. Then finally the AI agent can take a wrong action. And then it's fundamental in the connection between the agents and the large language model to receive correct answer, because they can produce the correct action. In other case, we have really an important problem. A second problem is the misalignment, and not always the system behavior is matched with the user or societal goals. And it's fundamental to have a good matching between the societal values or the societal goals and the design of the LLM. Then it is fundamental because when the large language model is not aligned with the societal goals, really the agents that we construct over the LLMs can amplify this misalignment. And another important aspect is that really we don't know when people and the company now, the big company, are designing the large language model. Really, always we have emergent technology, emergent behaviors, and really, even when we try to train the models according to some rules, it's possible to create behaviors that we don't design, and we cannot fully predict the behavior of the system. Always, when we receive the news about new large language model, it's usual to know that really they have they produce some action that they are quite different than the original, or they are emergent action that they were not programmed. We know that we combine the knowledge or the information with the foundation model. Really, we don't know exactly what will happen in this unpredictable behavior. Well, this produce an scenario when really we have from the classical artificial intelligence, we have a static scenario when we can check the error, but here in this new scenario of generative AI, we have a dynamical scenario really when we are analyzing the system behavior, because we are at the interaction along the time, and it's fundamental to check the uncertainty and to reduce the uncertainty propagation. Because the risk is dynamic, we need to mitigate it in an also dynamic way. We have different strategies for the mitigation, and along this summer school, different speakers, we introduce you different studies about that. We have the alignment techniques. It's fundamental to align the LLMs, the foundation models, with the society, what rails, and it's fundamental to have to design the correct constraints in order to train the language model and to avoid the previous problems. And really, it's fundamental to control the outputs and also to design the theory about the safety about prompts. It's fundamental to check the unsafe prompts, because even with the prompts we can condition the final output of the large language model. An important aspect for the human oversight, the requirements, the trustworthy requirements of the European guideline is the human oversight. And for human oversight, it's fundamental to consider two different models of interaction with a system. A human in the loop, when the human takes the final decision, is a fundamental requirement for high risk scenario, when we need, according to the European AI Act and European guidelines, the human must take the last decision, and in this scenario we must include the human in the process to take decision. And human on the loop, when we are using autonomous AI agents, they are not acting in a high risk scenario, but we have a human, or they are taking a small decision without risks, and we have the human checking the behavior of the AI agent. In the first case, we have we need the approval of the human, in the human in the loop. In the second case, human in the loop, we need the approval. In second case, human on the loop, we need to monitor the behavior of the system. And another important elements for the mitigation of the behavior of foundation models or generative AI is the red teaming and the evaluation, and is fundamental to the idea of adversarial testing. It's fundamental before to deploy any kind of application. It's fundamental the testing and to analyze any adversarial scenario, to extract in the border, in the corner data, to extract the system to check the real behavior, and of course the continuous evaluation. And a clear example is ChatGPT. ChatGPT, you know, is now 3 years old, 3.5 years approximately, from the end of the November 30 in 22, and now from the first initial version of ChatGPT with a lot of hallucination, a lot of problems. Now, after the improvements in the different versions, they introduce the tuning, the continuous tuning, the alignment tuning, while the rails, moderation layers. When you interact with any language model, you receive some message that you cannot do some action, for example, to receive a picture that can be protected by rules and any other actions, and it has a continuous evaluation. Now, any large language model, any company has a continuous evaluation to avoid this problem for the AI system. In any case, never we are free to have these problems. Never we are free to have hallucination or to have unsafe prompts or to use unsafe prompts and to have the previous discussed problem. Always we need to pay attention to the output and to check the real behavior. In this scenario, it's fundamental to take and to use and to design the correct mechanisms to avoid the previous problem, to mitigate the problem, and to track in AI. And this is in this scenario, this is the fundamental problem. And then, in order to analyze or to study the problems, the risks, and to introduce the mitigation strategy, the fundamental tool or the fundamental component that we need to design is some correct governance module and the governance rules in order to avoid the problems. Now the governance of the AI system that it matches directly with trustworthy AI is fundamental in order to design trustworthy or responsible AI system to trust in them. The governance includes the policies and standards, the compliance and regulation, of course, from the law point of view, accountability and the clear responsibility, the auditing rules and the responsibility of the system, and fundamental the monitoring and the safe and secure technology to guarantee the correct behavior along the time. Of course, together the governance, we need to use there are different technologies, the core enables, and the explainability and the different techniques of safety and security are fundamental in order to design the governance. In this way, we can extend or to have a more trust AI system. We must increase the safe capability always. To need to reduce the risks, okay? Always we have the risks, but we need to reduce it. And we need to design sustainable AI system from the responsible AI system from social and economical benefits. And this is another question to discuss about the use of AI system. Well, this is the the first part, the first module, the fundamental aspect of responsible AI and trustworthy AI. The second module is about tracks in AI, and I want to discuss 4 aspects. AI as a black box, why we needed the tracks, the foundation of tracks, and I want to introduce a concept that is calibrated trust. It's a concept that we have designed, we are designing in order to introduce or to get the tracks in AI system. And this is fundamental for an aspect, as I explained you now, when we are discussing about, or we are using generative and agentic AI, we have a continuous interaction along the time with the system. Therefore, we are in a scenario of human AI decision making, human AI collaboration. And in this scenario of human AI collaboration, it's fundamental to introduce the rules to trust in AI. As I told you at the beginning, now the majority of the AI systems that we use, they are black box. We are using big deep learning models with a lot of neurons, and it's so difficult to understand them. This question was discussed is really along this century. We are developing from the area of AI, we are developing AI system, discussing about interpretability and discussing about explainability and so on. But I want to pay attention to this paper and to DaSCI. DaSCI 16, just 10 years ago, was published in Nature, this paper by Castelvecchi, with the question, can we open the black box of AI? Was a really important paper, together another paper of other people with the classical example of the wolves and the dog, the difference between the dog and the wolf. But these 2 papers were fundamental to discuss about the problem of the AI system. But this is, I pay special attention to this one because it introduced the black box, and really when we discuss about AI, we have AI system and the black box, we have 3 problems. The opacity, I did introduce previously, the opacity as the opposite of transparency. The second one is the eye reliance. This is an important problem because we don't know the exact behavior of the AI system, the problem is the over-reliance. It's usual that if we have not experience with the AI system, or we have high tracks in the AI system, finally the problem for the user is the over-reliance, and to accept always any recommendation, any action of the AI system without any discussion about that. And of course, the third question is to trust in AI. We need to open this black box to tracks in AI. As we know, as you know, when we are discussing about deep learning, we have a lot of artificial neurons, a lot of layers of artificial neurons, and always we have the comparison between the human brain, the billions of connected neurons, with the current billions of parameters of the foundation model, of the big deep learning models. And in this scenario, really, we have the opacity. It's not possible to fully understand the system, only partially, and then we need to introduce the different techniques to increase the tax in AI and reduce the area lines and the mentioned problem. The area line is a fundamental problem. Let's suppose in a medical scenario, if a doctor is working together with an assistant and the doctor is receiving the recommendation of the assistant according to the symptoms, the doctor receives a recommendation for an illness. The doctor must understand why it is receiving the recommendation and to take a final decision. We know that always the assistant can make an error because it's almost impossible to have a perfect assistant without error. We know that we have a bound on the error, and it's fundamental that the doctor to understand why they are receiving the recommendation and to take the correct decision. In some case, the doctor must take a decision against to the assistant because the doctor, according to the knowledge and the experience, can take a different decisions, but this is fundamental to avoid the over-reliance. And then this is a fundamental problem, the reliance, and we need to take the correct decision even against the assistant. And this is fundamental, and in this scenario, the explainability is fundamental. Because really, in this scenario, AI is a black box, and we don't see how it processes the information. We know that the assistant, the deep learning model, processes the information, but we don't know the way to process the information. And then we need a reason to trust in AI. We need to understand the final decision and the way we need some technology in order to understand the AI. Well, the question in this scenario is how to trust in AI. And how to trust in AI, and let me to pay attention to the definition of trust. I check and I use the Cambridge Dictionary definition, and you can check two parts in this definition. The first part is about humans. The definition of trust is to believe that someone is good and honest and will not harm you. Then, if we trust in a human, in a person, we think that is a good person, is an honest person, and this person will not harm you. In this case, you trust in this other person. But when we are discussing about a system, it's quite different. We have discussing about an artifact, it's a technology, and also in the definition of the Cambridge Dictionary, we have a second part that you can check. It's all that something, an artifact, technology, any other artifact is safe and reliable. Safe from the European also, and particularly the American introduction of trustworthy AI, we say that the safe because the artifact avoid any will not harm you, is safe and protect to the person. But you can check that we have a problem with the definition, because if we are discussing about something, an artifact, the definition introduces reliable. Reliable is synonymous of trustworthy. And really, we have a booklet in the definition. When we are discussing about a person, it's very clear, good person, honest, and will not harm you. It's very clear and direct. We have three fundamental elements: good person, honest, and will not harm you. In the second case, an artifact, the artifact will not harm you, it is safe, but it is reliable. It is reliable, similar to trustworthy, and or synonymous to trustworthy, and really we introduce trustworthy, and we are using a concept that is connected with trust. Of course, trustworthy AI is different than to trust in AI, but we have a definition, or we are using a synonymous word of trustworthy in the definition of trust. Really, to trust in AI, we need to build a system introducing the trustworthy AI requirements. We need first, before the trustworthy AI requirements, to trust in AI, remember the previous definition or the previous framework for trust in AI with three requirements. One of them is the high performance. It's fundamental to have high quality, to check that the model has high accuracy and perfect or good performance is fundamental, because if the system has not a good performance, it may be safe and secure, but it is not useful for us. Then first aspect is the performance, and then we must consider different aspects of different elements or requirements of trustworthy AI. Explainability, fundamental to understand why the system provides provide you a solution and a recommendation. Auditability and accountability. The auditability in order to verify the correct behavior of the system. The system is safe and it is correct, and we need to check and to audit the system from different point of view. The accountability, the responsibility of the system after the deployment. Of course, the security and privacy, the privacy of the information is fundamental. In this scenario, we know that the development of different technology, particularly in distributed scenario, the federated learning that provides us the possibility to train models maintaining the privacy of the data. And the security, the resilience against attacks and manipulation. And of course, when we discuss about security, we have discussing also about safety. Really, we have the different or part of the requirements of trustworthy AI. And together the previous one, we must pay attention to the fairness and no discrimination. The number 4 is fundamental to avoid any kind of discrimination. And the number 6, the human oversight and control. That's it associated to the human in the loop and the human on the loop. Really, to trust in AI, to design a system to trust in AI, we need to use the requirement and to consider the requirement of trustworthy AI. But we must pay attention to the following aspect. When we discuss about trustworthy AI, we are discussing about requirements, part of them technological requirements, technical and not technical requirements, because the auditability and the accountability, particularly accountability, is not technical, and the governance is not technical. But we have other technical aspects of the using. On the left, you are checking that I am using the American, the NICS requirements. We are discussing about safety, or safe AI, secure AI, privacy, explainability, and so on. Then we are using technical elements and technical requirements in order to design the system. But to design an AI system with these requirements is not equal to have or to trust in AI. We must pay attention that when we discuss about trustworthy AI, we are discussing about partially about technology to design a system. And we are discussing about non-technical aspects like the accountability or governance. But it's different to tracks in AI. When we discuss about to tracks in AI, we need to consider other aspects. And let me to introduce three fundamental aspects. One of them associated to the technical aspect, the technology, the system characteristics, the accuracy, the robustness, the use of explainability and security and so on. But in order to track in AI, it's fundamental to consider other two factors. In this proposal is a proposal that we are discussing, my colleague Isaac Triguero and other colleagues from Norway. We introduce three factors to track in AI. The technology, second, the context. The context is fundamental, the domain of application, the risks, the culture inside of this context, and the organizational context. If we are using the AI system in a company, the organizational context and the way to use the AI system is fundamental in order to have trust in the system. And the third aspect are human-based elements. Really, the user that will use the AI system, the users has is experience about in the idea or in the topic, and the experience of the user is fundamental in order to work correctly with the system. The emotions, even the emotions when we use the AI system, and the perception when you are working with a system is fundamental to avoid or to have a clear, or to know the clear scenario that you are interacting with a system, and the responsibility, of course, of the human, to have clear the human oversight and alignment with values and ethics in the context, and for the human in the high risk scenario is fundamental to have the control of the decision and to take the final decision. Then we need to design the complete human framework in order to discuss about tracks in AI. Then we need to consider the technology, we need to consider the context, the application, the culture, and this framework, and we need to consider all the human aspects associated to the user. Yes?
Professor, the technology piece isn't the same as the trustworthy AI?
Basically, when we are discussing about technology, we are discussing about all the potential elements of trustworthy AI. Of course, when we design technology to trust in AI, usually we are discussing about trustworthy AI, because we are discussing about, usually we discuss about safety, and we include inside of safety any kind of elements in order to have a secure and safe system. It's really the set of technology is really an important, we have an important set of technology for safety. Of course, all technology about privacy, all technology about explainability, and all technology about to mitigate the fairness and any kind of discrimination and to guarantee the fairness, yes. And then usually when we discuss about technology, we are discussing about all the technical requirements that we must include in the design of the system. Of course, even when you design an AI system, we need to think from the auditing point of view, and we need to understand perfectly the problem and to design an AI system to audit it. Because to think that we can audit an AI system after the deployment or before the deployment, and you don't design the system in order to audit it, you have a problem. And you have a complete asymmetry. And that is fundamental also because before to deploy the AI system, we need to audit it. It's fundamental to design the AI system to use this technology in order to audit the AI system. Then these are all the technology inside of trustworthy AI. Really, trustworthy AI is a clear, theoretically a clear definition, but on the other hand, is a fuzzy definition because we are discussing about requirements. And really, the technology inside or associated to requirement is we have multiple technologies. Because as you can check, we are discussing about safe, secure, fairness, privacy, explainability, and accountability and transparency, and even the reliability. Really, in the American definition, we again use reliability that has any connection or is associated to trustworthy. Is always we are using some words that the meaning is relatively similar. But when you discuss about the requirements, the technology around these requirements, all the technology of the system really is a big set of technology in order to design an AI system with the requirements. Thanks. Well, when we have this factor and we pay attention to this factor, the technology, the context at the human base, really, together with the previous aspect, we can really try to design an AI system to trust in the AI system. And together the aspect, according to my previous answer to the question, we need the performance to guarantee the high performance, the explainability for the accidental opacity, the explainability that can reduce the accidental opacity, the compliance on the legal aspect, and to audit the AI system, and the AI governance, and fundamental, in the AI governance, we include any aspect about AI safety. AI safety from the European definition, including safe and secure aspect, and the monitoring and to control the behavior along the time and the continuous interaction. Well, in this scenario, we define, we introduce the calibrated tracks in AI. And we discuss, or we define this kind of trust in AI as the calibrated trust in AI. Because we are at the beginning in a black box and opacity scenario. We introduce technical elements in order to include the explainability, to introduce the adequate technology to audit the system. We need to verify and detect the bias, the inappropriate use, the any fails, and really with in audit process, we need to guarantee to have or to design. Really, we need to design before the AI system to audit the AI system, and we introduce the governance, all the rules to, in particular, to govern the irreducible opacity. Because if we discuss, or if we understand that we have the accidental opacity that we can reduce with explainability, we need to govern the irreducible opacity. We need to introduce the accountability, the responsibility of the system, and we need to introduce the inspection or to monitor the AI system behavior along the time. And we need to introduce, usually we are discussing about safety and to mount the inspection of the AI system, usually we need a second AI system that it is controlling the behavior and to check that the AI system is inside of guardrails. Then, including the three mentioned factors, we are in the scenario of tracks as the evidence of the behavior, the context, the evidence introduced that we can audit the system, we have the guarantee of high performance, we can audit the system, and we have the evidence of we have a correct technology, the context and the characteristic of the problem, that the AI system is aligned with the ethics and the values according to the company, according to the society, and the human oversight, the control of the action of the decision in high-risk scenario. In this framework, we can discuss or we can introduce the calibrated tracks as a way to design a scenario to tracks in AI. When we have the calibrated tracks in AI in this scenario, it's fundamental for a final aspect, the human AI decision making. Now, in the present and in the future, it will be natural to work with an AI system and to interact with an AI system. And in this scenario, it's fundamental to consider the human AI decision making, the collaboration between the human and the AI system, the intelligence system. And we must understand this process as a collaboration, because the alternative is the I-reliance problems and the over-reliance. If we don't collaborate and take a decision together, we have the problem that finally the human, the user, will accept any recommendation of the system, and really we will have not human in the loop. Really, we have human out of the loop because the AI system can take all the decisions. Then it's fundamental this calibrated tracks scenario in order to discuss about the new scenario, the human AI decision making. And to finish this second module and this part, tomorrow I will present the third module. Let me to discuss about human AI decision making. Going back to the European regulation, the European regulation that now is affected from the concept of the problems, the European regulation, the regulation is about the problems, classify the problems, not the technology. When we discuss about in the European regulation, AI, Artificial Intelligence Act, it classifies the problems in four kind of problems. Minimal of low risks, that when we need only transparency to communicate to the people that they interact with a system, providing a scenario. For example, the face recognition in the street in Europe is not affected. The biometric recognition, the biometric technology without any rules, and there are other use that are against the human security and so on. And then the fourth one is the application, the level 3 is the application, the level 2 is the application in the high risk scenario. Risk scenario like health, finance, critical infrastructure, public service, and so on. Let me to suppose three potential scenarios in three potential possibilities. 10 years ago, in the past, we don't use so much the artificial intelligence. Of course, the artificial intelligence is, we are living with artificial intelligence more than 30 years ago, and really in a hospital you have, in radiology area, we have a lot of artificial intelligence from a lot of time ago, and in different, in the banks and in finance, really the use of artificial intelligence has a long history, but let's suppose a scenario in the past. We have enough artificial intelligence and the expert take decision him or herself directly. We have now agentic AI, we have now the possibility to design autonomous AI system, but in this high-risk scenario, in Europe, according to our regulation, we don't accept the use of autonomous system. But in Europe, and also in any other part of the world, in any country, also is effective for America or in any other country. We must take a decision in health, we must take a decision in finance. It's important to avoid the autonomous system, except in those scenarios under complete control. Then really the scenario that usually or it's necessary to consider is the human decision making and the use of artificial intelligence system assisting decision making. This is the scenario for the future, and in this scenario we have different possibilities. The classical possibility is, let's suppose, a medical scenario. We are using, and we have the data, we are using an artificial intelligence system. The artificial intelligence system provides an advice and prediction. The expert take the prediction, take the recommendation, and the expert take the final decision. This is the classical human in the loop. Of course, when we discuss in this scenario, I suppose that I always use medicine example, but I remember when we are discussing with a doctor, the doctor say, I have a clinical eye when I observe an patient. But really, when a doctor say the doctor that it has clinical eye, really is the intuition based on the knowledge, because really the expert in any area have knowledge that they can explain, but we have knowledge that we are learning along our life, and we have knowledge that we cannot express directly, but is our intuition. Really, our intuition is based on the knowledge, but a knowledge that we cannot explain. We have also an opacity inside of our reasoning process, because not all our knowledge can be expressed in a natural way for us. Then is our intuition, that is our knowledge in our opacity part of the mind. And then the use of explainability, the use of explainable technology to explain the behavior of the A system recommendation, together with the intuition and or the complete knowledge of the expert, provide the expert the possibility to take the final decision. Then it's fundamental, explainability is fundamental in order to understand and to take decision, of course. In this scenario, I like the concept of co-intelligence. Co-intelligence is a concept that introduced in the book of Ethan Mogic 2 years ago, and he introduced co-intelligence as a term for living and working with artificial intelligence. Ethan Mogic in the book introduced 2 concepts. The first one is the centaur. Centaur is a Greek mythological mix between the horse and the human, and it introduced the centaur as a concept for delegation and the delegation, the analysis of the data, and the final approval of the decision. Really, the human in the loop to take decision, the human is a classical application in medicine. And a second concept that etymologic introduced in the book is cyborg. I don't like this concept cyborg, because the cyborg usually for us is a mix between machine and human in the fiction. It used cyborg like co-creativity, co-analysis. And in his book, he discussed the future cooperation between the human and the system in a design in order to solve problems with the co-creativity and co-analysis and human decision making. In this scenario, explainability can help the doctor centaur and can help any expert in order to take decision following the idea of co-intelligence introduced by etymology. Well, the conclusion in this part, what do we need to track in artificial intelligence? We need to track in artificial intelligence because we need to manage the uncertainty and the risks. We know that the use of artificial intelligence introduces uncertainty, introduces risks, and we need to manage it. And then we need the accountability, the collaboration between the human and the AI, and the human oversight. And then it's fundamental, this aspect, in order to track in AI. And there are three central dimensions that we need to consider and to govern AI system. We need to consider that to check the vulnerability. The user assumes the risks when delegate in an artificial intelligence system, and we need to safeguard and protect the human, because there is a vulnerability in this work together, AI and human. Second, the uncertainty. There is incomplete information about the system behavior, and the human don't understand completely or don't understand the behavior of the system, and requires evidence and transparency to use the AI system. And another important aspect that now people start to discuss and to study the anticipation. The anticipation to unpredictable behavior of the system. And it's fundamental that the user anticipates how the artificial intelligence system will act and evaluate it in an appropriate and reliable way. And this is fundamental to know what are the limits and what are to stretch the system, to know the border of the system, that we call the corner data, the corner scenario from an application point of view. Then trusting in AI does not eliminate the risks, of course, but it makes more unstable, governable, and aligned with humans. Then we need to introduce all elements to trust in AI to introduce more understandability, to introduce the governance, and to align the AI system with the human. In this scenario, we have the AI strengths. We know that the AI system processes high volumes of data, detect complex patterns. We have 7 days per week without fatigue, maximum efficiency, and length and improve with data continuously. On the other side, the human understand the context, brings values, ethics, and empathy. The empathy is fundamental now in our society to think about people discussing with a machine in an hospital is not acceptable with our current rules and in the society. The empathy and the relation between two people is fundamental now in the society. The creativity and the intuition is fundamental, and also to make final decision and take the responsibility and accountability. Then to put together this aspect can provide the humanized synergy that we need, and for this humanized synergy we need to track in AI. AI must not replace people, but must enhance the people activity. We can, or there are some discussion about the human-augmented capabilities. This is another discussion, because we know that with the artificial intelligence system, we reduce some activities and the employment in some areas, and we introduce another new activities, and this is another economical and discussion about the problem of jobs, and how do we translate with technology the scenario for working people. But the idea, the fundamental idea, we must not replace people, we need to improve the capability of the people. Well, in this way, calibrated trust in AI introduce different aspects, and we introduce 7 aspects to discuss about calibrated trust in AI. The usefulness, the AI system must provide the real value in appropriate context, safety and reliability, explainability, fairness, respect to people's rights and dignity, and to avoid any kind of discrimination, human center of decision making, the human oversight, the human in the loop, or the human on the loop, and continuous managing of uncertainty and risks. The uncertainty and risk management, that it is also fundamental. Calibrated trust in AI introduce a way to manage the uncertainty and the risks in the AI system. Well, in this point, I finished today, because the next step, the last module, is the module about the reasoning stack, transformer, LLMs, and agentic AI, and to discuss about explainability and governance in this scenario. But this will be tomorrow. Tomorrow I have a session with Patrick and myself. We have together a session, and I have half of a session, and I finish the third part about trust in AI. Today you have different talks about large language model, generative AI, agentic AI, and tomorrow, after the talk of today, when you have the introduction about the generative AI and agentic AI, I will continue with the tracks in AI. Particularly, I focus the attention in 2 elements tomorrow: the explainability and the governance for this I call reasoning stack. Reasoning stack as the combination from transformer to foundation model, generative AI, general purpose artificial intelligence, and agentic AI. And tomorrow I will pay attention and I will focus on explainability and governance in this scenario. The final message is explainability is a fundamental technology in order to understand AI system behavior, and the governance is fundamental to introduce the rules to control the AI system. And governance is fundamental to include the auditability, the safety, the inspection, and the responsibility, the accountability, and of course using the trustworthy AI technology in order to design a system for a correct governance. In my opinion, in my position, explainability and governance are the two fundamental components in the design of a system, and tomorrow I will pay attention to these 2 aspects, explainability and governance, in the scenario of generative AI and agentic AI. Well, thank you very much, and if you have any other question and comments before the coffee break. Mario? One moment, microphone. You can use the microphone, that people that is online can listen to you.
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for the talk, really enriching and interesting. And I have a question, and it's that when you introduce the concept of collaborative trust, you say that trust needs an evidence, also be bound to a certain context of a problem, and then human oversight. And then you say that we shift from collaborative trust to human AI decision making. And so my question is, since collaborative trust requires already human oversight, it's possible to have collaborative trust without the human AI collaboration thing?
Interesting question, thanks. Yes, really, according to the European guidelines, when we are discussing about, we introduce human oversight to use artificial intelligence in high-risk scenario, when the person, the human, must take the final decision. But in the classification of the problems, we have low risks or a lot of application without risks for the human rights or the health of people. In this scenario, you must also introduce or have tracks in AI. And in this scenario, you are using autonomous AI system to take a decision. And then, of course, in this scenario, you have also you need transparency, of course, from the point of view of the communication. People must know that they interact or you are using AI system, but you are using autonomous AI system continuously. And you need to track in this autonomous AI system. In order to trust in the autonomous AI system, you need to audit the behavior of the AI system and to know exactly the performance, the guardrails, the limits, and the context of use. That also in this scenario, you need to introduce the necessary requirements to design trustworthy AI system, to audit AI system, and to guarantee the correct behavior. Because, of course, if the AI system produces an error, it's not an error, the error has not really is an error that of course, let's suppose when in a call with a restaurant, you have an automatic system, you are looking for a table and the system say, no, I have not any free table. If you are using an AI agent to book or to reserve you and to reserve the table. If there is an error in the AI agents, there is no problem really for you because you call to other restaurant, you connect, or your agents connect with the restaurant in order to book a table in another restaurant. There are a lot of scenarios when the error does not matter you really, but of course the owner of the system want to optimize the performance because you are the owner of the restaurant. If you have a free table, you want that your assistant, your agent say, okay, I have a free table, please, I will book with you. Then there are errors that doesn't matter from the guidelines of the AI, but it's important to increase the performance. This is the reason that we need to track in AI, but from the double side of the drivers. The user, the owners of the system, I want an AI system with a maximum performance and to track in the correct behavior, and of course from the users outside that use it, the transparency to know that you interact with the system, and of course it's important the maximum quality, and it's important the performance, the explainability to understand why. If the system has an error, you need to audit the system to check why you have an error, you need explainability, you need the traceability in order to understand the decision. Even you need to monitor the behavior of the system in order to check the error. Because the objective in a lot of applications in the future will be to reduce, to mitigate the risks and to reduce the error. Always you need to trust in AI. And if you introduce the correct technology to trust in AI and the governance of the to trust in AI, you can mitigate the risks and you can reduce in the future the errors. This is fundamental to introduce the trust in AI and the governance rules for any AI system now in the present and in the future.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you again, Paco, for the nice talk. My question goes in the regulation side of trust and AI. Because as we know in many other fields, differences in regulation can derivate into unfair competition, and that points out who should be the owner of the regulation side of AI. In the talk you mentioned the UA Act, you mentioned also the US trying to regulate, but at the end we have like different sides, companies and then the people that is trying to regulate. At the end, if we want to avoid this unfair competition, who should be the owner of the regulation? The United Nations, so who should be the people that regulates instead of just the European Union or only the Americans?
Very interesting question for a discussion. For me, the regulation must be the institutions. The institution, the company must introduce government rules inside of the company to design a safe AI system. But the regulation for the society, because really when we are discussing about the risks, the potential risks, the risks is for the users, and the user is the society outside of the company. Then, because we regulate the use of artificial intelligence to guarantee the safety for the society, the fairness and privacy and so on, the regulation, the rules, the final rules must be produced by the institutions. What are the institutions? The governments, European Commission in Europe, other country, the government of the country, China, America, and so on. But because really we are in a global war, when we are using technology from one country to other country, we need a global regulation. Probably, in my opinion, United Nations is maybe the best option. We need an agreement among all the countries in order to produce trustworthy AI and to produce AI according to some global rules. And the accountability is fundamental, the principle of responsibility, and also the ethical principles in the design and use of artificial intelligence. But we must distinguish between global rules and the governance of any AI system from United Nations, for example, but behind, in any country, we have the law and the rules, the institutional law. And this is another question, that when you use artificial intelligence, we have, and we are discussing about responsible AI, we are discussing about ethics and law. And this belongs to any country. Any country, in the institution, the government has the rules that any AI system must be the lawfulness and ethics. But we need a global governance rules from an agreement among countries in order to use the system from one country to other country without any problem. And there is also, we have two levels, the global levels and the governance of AI, and the local levels, the rules of any country and the law of any country. And we need these two levels and the correct matching between the global governance of AI and the local rules. But we know that when we discuss about the use of AI system in different countries, the rules are different. It's quite different in China than in America or than in Europe. But in order to use the same technology in all countries, we need to design the governance aspect that guarantee to tracks in AI. And we need, the technology is the same, explainability, monitoring AI behavior, safety, and so on. Yes, we are on the time. Yes, we are on the questions. Thank you. Well, any other question? Let me to explain shortly. Today we have different sessions. After the coffee break, Johan said that we provide us a talk about from generative to agentic AI. Later this afternoon, Joseph and Bastian provide us two sessions about different aspects of agentic and generative AI. Today is a complete day about the foundation of the topic, and it's important that you receive an email from Nuria and Juanlu, both, that they coordinate the working groups. We received a document with 13 problems, 13 potential problems, because today, in the last session, 4:30, Juanlu and Nuria will present you the problems, the 13 problems quickly, because it's only 1 hour for 13 problems. And you must choose in order different problems, and they will create the groups. We will have 9 or 10 groups, 8 maybe. They will try to have 8 groups with 6 people per group in order to work together in a project. And in fact, we have a section that Oyer Menchaca here, he was a student last year in the summer school, and he's finishing the Ph.D. in auditability, and he was working in a team with other students in the school. They developed a very interesting project. Together, other project, we have high quality projects, student project, but his team continues working. We were collaborating together, and the team was continuous working after to finish the summer school, and they published a paper. The paper is online. Here we explain the process for the discussion, and they published a paper in a top reputed journal, AI, Artificial Intelligence and Society Journal. It's the top journal in the analysis of the societal problems from the artificial intelligence point of view. It was really a very nice experience for them, for me working with them, and really working along the review process. It was the first paper produced by a student in the summer school, and in this edition we want to push all you to try to produce a good project. First, a good project. You will defend the project at the end of next Thursday, next week. And we must also produce a poster. There is a prize for the best poster. There are prizes for the best project. And we will push you to try to continue the cooperation after to finish the summer school, guided by Nuria, by Juanlu, myself, and other teacher, speaker of the summer school with interest in the problem, and the idea to push you to try to publish your idea, to finish your idea, and to publish your ideas. Really, last year, I remember probably 3 or 4 projects had really this possibility to continue to have an excellent final work. Unfortunately, only one team, the team with Oyer, was the team that continues with the work. This year, we want to push you to continue the collaboration. I remember in the team there are people from Granada, 2 people from Granada, from Bilbao, from Abu Dhabi, and from Abu Dhabi, Bilbao, and Granada. Was a team with people from different, all the teams will have people from different areas, and but this afternoon we will discuss about that. But it is important that we want to push you the collaboration and to discuss in the future to continue collaboration. Well, thank you very much. We are over time and we have the coffee break.